Well, hey folks, here we are for Podcast News with the Crews number 2. And I've got a wonderful guest, Tim Graves, here with me today. And we're just going to talk a little bit and have a good time. So I hope you folks enjoy it. Yeah, well, Tim, it's good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Well, why don't we tell them a little bit, about how we met, how we got together.
Well, yeah, me and you met, I guess, through Kimberly, the fiddle
We
player.
did, yeah. And well, actually, David, my buddy David, was good friends with her for a long time, and he sort of, was mentored by her on the fiddle.
Right.
And and so knowing that she was with you and played with you and everything, I think that's sort of how that came about. And
right.
I was good friends with David, and I think it just sort of all fell together.
Sure, it fell in together. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, well, tell me a little bit about where you're from. And
I'm from East Tennessee, up in Tellico Plains, little bitty town, a little bit about 60 miles south of Knoxville on Highway 68. It's a little old town, nothing but beauty there. I mean, it's a beautiful town. It's the best place in the world to raise a family. I was born there, grew up there, and graduated high school there.
Yeah.
And then I left there in 1984. Come to Nashville. I've been down here ever since.
Yeah, well, you come from Bluegrass royalty, don't you?
I really do. Uncle Josh was born there. He was the dobro player for Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs and the Foggy Mountain Boys. He's the one that put the dobro into bluegrass music.
Right.
He was Dad's brother, and we were all born there. And Uncle Josh moved out of Tellico when he was about 2 or 3 months old.
Okay.
And he moved to Maryville, which is a little bit north of Tellico. So he grew up there. He was born in Tellico, but he grew up in Maryville.
Okay. Yeah. So that's not very far from Tellico.
No, about an hour, 45 minutes, something like
all
that.
Right. Yeah. Now, well, you said something about you living in Detroit for a little bit. Did you live up there? Or?
Yeah, Dad moved us up there in Detroit in 1962 because of work.
Okay.
Up there, the automotive industry was booming, and
the mills were hot.
Yes, they were hot. So there was no work much in the South. So he moved us to Detroit, and we lived up there till 1969, and it got rough. All of the riots and all that stuff like we're having today.
Oh yeah.
But this was in Detroit, and I remember just as plain as day, tanks and people with guns walking down the road. I guess it was our forces just keeping the riders down, because we lived in an apartment building, and we had 3 floors, and one man was chosen for each floor to protect that floor.
Is that right?
Yeah, and they would come down the alley and they would throw cocktails into the houses and burn them up.
Oh man!
So the rule was, if you saw somebody, shoot them. Because they were going to burn down the apartment building. There was probably 30 families in that apartment building,
right.
And so we couldn't let it happen. So Dad and them stayed up 24/7, guarding it during those riots.
Yeah, just keep y'all safe.
Yes, yeah.
Well, y'all had to get out of there, and y'all came right back to Tellico.
Come back to Tellico in 1969.
Okay, so you were born in Tellico and then went to Detroit.
Yeah,
and then came back.
Then came back to Tellico, and that's where I was 9 years old then. So I ended up the rest of my life in Tellico until I left in '84.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was a wonderful place, and still is. Still is. We have a big bluegrass festival up there in October that is huge.
They sort of glorify Uncle Josh.
They do, and me, because
yeah.
I'm from there, and they think I'm something, but I'm not.
Well, but, I don't know about that.
They think so. It's a good thing. It's a good feeling to go back to your home. They say you can never go home anymore, but I can. So it's I feel good when I go home.
It's a whole different feeling when you're able to go home and do something. Like play music or play a show or have a festival or accept an award or something. At home when all your home folks are there around you.
Yeah.
And it is too bad Uncle Josh isn't here with us. Today to sit here and talk with us.
He was so wonderful. He was one of a kind. There was nobody like Uncle, man. He was.
Well, he was a pioneer of the dobro. I mean,
yeah.
He's what has caused, any dobro player that's playing today pretty much got into it because of Josh.
That's right. If they put 3 picks on, and play a roll or slant or anything like that on a dobro, it's because of Uncle Josh.
Huh.
I mean, that wasn't happening in bluegrass music until he did it.
Right.
You know, so that was, I mean, he's credited with it because he did it.
Well, yeah, he, like I say, he was a pioneer, and now he had he was most known for playing with Flat Scruggs, and then but later on he went with Lester Flatt for a little bit, and then he went with Earl Scruggs. After they split up, he played with both of them.
He sure did. Yeah, he played 3 years. Flat Scruggs split up in '69.
Okay.
And then Uncle Josh stayed with Lester for 3 years, and then he moved over to Earl Scruggs Review and worked with them for 3 years. And then he went out on his own after that.
Now, when he went out on his own after Earl Scruggs, was that when he went with Kenny Baker?
A little bit before he went with Kenny. He went with Kenny in 1984. Yeah, so he did his own thing for 6, 7, 8 years. He cut some records with Kenny, but in '84 is when they teamed up and started a partnership.
Yeah.
As working on the road together. They did that till both of them died. You know, Josh died and then Kenny died. So.
Right. Yeah. They burned the road up. Him and Kenny did. They were really good friends and had a good time doing it. I know.
Made a lot of good music, man. Those two played really well together. I mean, really well.
So of course it was Uncle Josh that inspired you to start playing the dobro.
Yep.
And I think you said he actually brought you a dobro, or you heard him playing one night or something.
He while we was in Detroit, Dad would always play the Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs show on the Grand Ole Opry show with the Foggy Mountain Boys, and Flatt and Scruggs would be on there. And whenever Uncle Josh would take a break, it would catch my attention. I was 3, 4, 5 years old, but it would catch my attention. And Dad would say, "That's your uncle." Well, I didn't know what uncle meant because I never met him. I never met him. But he did come one time to our house while they was doing a show in Detroit, and Mom fixed him dinner. And that's another story, but she fixed him dinner, and it was Lester and Earl and Josh and Jake and all of them. So they come to our apartment, Mom fixed them dinner. And then when we moved back to Detroit, back to Tellico Plain in '69, Uncle Josh started coming up and seeing us. And the second he got that guitar out, the dobro, and started playing, I thought, that's what I've been hearing. And Uncle would move his feet when he'd play. It was just so cool. And I was on fire. I mean, from the first time I saw him, I thought, this is so cool. You know, I mean, and Uncle had charisma like it just oozed out of him.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just something about that man. You just had to talk to him. He was just that type of guy.
Yeah.
And man, I hung with him. I picked his brain as much as I possibly could. You know?
Well, and that's what it takes, and it takes that inspiration, to get you started on that path too.
Yeah.
And and so now he had 3 different dobros that was his most famous that he played.
Right.
Now,
he had in '55, sometime in '55, he got Julie, which was a Model 27 round neck, slotted head. People get this all confused, but that's what he played. And he played that one till '67.
Okay.
Then came Cliff. Cliff was a Model 37. Difference between the Model 37 and 27 is the binding.
Okay.
The binding on a 27 is just on the top of the box.
Mm-hmm.
A 37 is both top and bottom. And some 37s was round necks, but most of them are square necks with a solid peg head. And that's the one that everybody likes right now is the Model 37 square neck with solid peg.
Now, so Julie was the holy grail of all.
Julie was
all dobros.
Yes, because that was all that stuff he cut with Flat and Scruggs in his early time was cut with Julie.
Well,
there was a couple songs cut with one before that when that was a 14 fret. He cut Randy Lynn Rag with Flat and Scruggs with a 14 fret guitar. And the 14 frets where the body hits at the A instead of the G.
Right.
So that's what that means.
Yeah.
And then he got rid of that a little bit after that, and then he got Cliff. So Julie. He got Julie, and Julie was the holy grail. I mean, that's the one he cut all that stuff with up till '67.
Well, so that was what I saw him playing with. Of course, I wasn't, I'm not old enough to have seen Flat and Scruggs, but growing up,
you see it on YouTube.
How I got. That's right. Thank God for YouTube.
That's
a lot of the old
right.
stuff is coming back, and that's when I first started getting into music. They were my biggest inspiration.
Yes, sir.
Flat Scruggs, Uncle Josh, and all the guys, and so the 14 fret dobro came before Julie.
It came before Julie, and he cut a couple sides with flat strokes with that guitar is what he told me.
Okay.
Then he got rid of that one, and Julie came along.
And Julie, and then Cliff, right?
And then Cliff after that.
Okay.
And then after Cliff came Elbert.
All right.
Elbert was an R.Q. Jones that came along in 1977. He played Cliff up till then. And then he got on with the Jones, with Rudy Jones, and they called it the R.Q. Jones. And he got a fabulous, a beautiful, wonderful guitar, a dobro, that he played from 77 till 84.
And we've actually got Elbert with us here today.
We do. I've been looking for that guitar for 36 years. When Uncle Josh brought me a dobro, had his name in the side of the neck, and I loved it. It was a great guitar, but every time he would come up and had Elbert, I'd lay that dobro down. I'd get Elbert and play it. Play it all weekend or all week. That Uncle would stay with us. I'd sit there and play that guitar. And I kept on telling him, I said, I want you to give me Elbert. He said, no, kid, I can't do that. And so in 84, he sold it, and I started looking for it. I was at the World's Fair in 82, playing with Cherokee, my band. And then when I found out when I went with Wilma Lee in 84, I found out he sold Elbert.
Oh, man.
And I went after it.
Broke your heart.
It broke my heart. It did. I was so upset that I couldn't get hold of it, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
I asked Rudy Jones, where's it at? He didn't know. Nobody knew. And this guitar finally popped back up about a month ago, 2 months ago maybe.
And you finally reunited with it.
I got reunited with it, and I've been working on it. It's somebody abused it real bad.
Yeah, they didn't take care of it.
They didn't take care of it like I do, but they abused this guitar. They done a terrible injustice to it. But I've got it put back together. It sounds good. It needs one more setup, and I'll have that done before long, and it should be back as good as I think it can possibly be. So
well, why don't we pick a tune on it, and then you can tell them a story about Uncle Josh.
I can do that.
Yeah.
What do you want to play?
Well, I don't know. What would you like to play on? Maybe a little folk not rock?
We can do a little bit of rock on it. We sure can. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let me get my picks on. This is Elbert's. It's a 1977 R.Q. Jones.
Okay.
It's a beautiful guitar. Like
Yeah,
I said,
it sure is.
It's got some.
It's got a good sound to it.
It does. It's got some problems inside, but it's not enough to hurt the sound. So do a little rock.
Yeah, let her go. Story to tell you about that.
The weirdest thing that ever happened to me in my life, and this has never happened to me before. Never. I got this guitar, and like I said, it was all to pieces. I mean, it was nearly unplayable.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to working on it, and I'd taken it apart, and I put it together. Wouldn't do nothing. It wouldn't ring. It wouldn't do nothing.
Right.
And took it apart again, and I left it took it apart and went to sleep. And during the night, sometime I had a dream. It was a dream, and the dream was that my phone rung, and I picked it up, and it said no number on it. And I picked it up, and I said hello, and it said, "Hey kid, how you doing?" And I'd heard that voice, Kelsey. I'd heard it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And I said, "Who is this?" He said, "This is your uncle." And he said, and I never said another word after that. He said, "I see you got Elbert." He said, "You need to put that guitar back together and play it." And I did say, I said, "It ain't ready to play.
Yeah.
It ain't ready to be put back together." He said, "Just put it back together and play it." So he hung up, and I went to sleep. The next morning I got up, and I'm just shaking. I mean, I'm just nervous as a cat. So I go in my room in here, and all the parts are laying here. So I put it all back, all the old parts. I mean the old parts.
Original
all
parts,
yeah, the old cone and the old saddle. I mean, but I did put a new nut on it because the other one was just too deep. I couldn't use it.
Yeah.
Put new inserts, the old inserts back in it. And Kelsey, I put it back down and put the strings on it and hit it, and it rung like a bell.
Oh man,
And I don't understand.
Shaking in your boots.
I'm thinking this is not supposed to be. It wasn't. So I thought this is crazy. So I come in here and I got on and I made a video of it. I said, y'all ain't gonna believe this. I mean, I was so nervous I couldn't even talk. Played it and it rung for 2 days. It rung. And then me and Kimberly was sitting here singing and playing, and I was playing Elbert, and she was playing her fiddle and was singing. She decided she wanted to go work out. She left. She wasn't gone 10 minutes. And I come back in here and sat down to Elbert. The first string, the third string, and the sixth string was dead as it was when I first got the guitar.
Wow.
I couldn't figure it out.
Well, it sort of sounds like it's opened back up a little bit now that you've done a little work to it.
I took it all apart. I took it apart 7 times. Put it all back together, put it back together, put it back together, and now I've got it ringing again. So I think that dream was just to tell me that the sound was still here.
It
still had the
had it in
sound.
it. You just gotta pull it out.
Just work on it a little bit, you know.
Well, that's amazing.
It's amazing. I mean, it still freaks me out just to think about it. It's like, holy, this is insane for this
Stranger things have happened.
So yeah, but that was his uncle saying my guitar still got the sound in it. Just play it, and that meant don't work on the inside of it. Just play it.
Just play
and
it.
that's what I did. So I just set it back
pull
up.
that sound out of it.
Pulled out of it. That's what we did. So.
Well, so after you were inspired by Uncle Josh, of course he was royalty all through the Opry and his whole career, and so you got sort of hooked up with the Opry there for a while.
I did. I went to work with Wilma Lee Cooper in 1984. She saw me at the World's Fair in 1982.
Okay.
And she said, "Now my dobro player's quitting in '83. If you want to come to work for me, I'd like to have you." And I said, "Okay." So I sure enough, in '84 I went to work with her. Stayed there steady till 2011. I'd work with Wilma Lee steady. It was my only gig I had, and then I put my band together, Cherokee, and because Wilma Lee
had this going at the same time.
At the same time with Wilma, because her work was slowing down real bad. She told us, she said, "I'm retiring. You need to find you something to do." She said, "Because I'm going to retire," and it got to where we were doing one spot a weekend at the Opry. One show was all we were doing out of all the shows. So I had my band out running, and we was working, and so it finally got to where I was working so much I had to quit Wilma. But I had just quit about 2 years with her. I quit in '96. I've been quit 4 years, but I was going back real often to play with her. She'd say, "Are you in this weekend?" I'd say, "Yeah." She said, "Come on down and play with me." So I'd go work the Opry with her. So it was semi working with her. And then in 2000, I went to work with Bob and Sonny, the Osborne brothers.
Okay.
And I closed my band down then.
Well, it sort of all just went right together, didn't it? I mean,
it weaved all
nothing
together.
interfered. That's the best way.
Yeah, I had some dates, and Sonny said, "Well, I tell you what," he said, you work your dates, and if you got a free weekend, you come and work with us." And he said, "If you can't work with us, I'll go out without a dobro player."
You can't get any better than
No,
that.
Sonny Osborne is Sonny and Bobby are the best. There ain't no two ways about it. So we worked that deal out, and when my dates ended, I didn't rebook some stuff, and then I went to stay with them until 2011. So.
Well.
And then I put together the Farmhands, and that's where I'm at now. So.
Well, during the time after you left the Osbournes, now your cousin Brian, which is actually Uncle's son.
Yeah, his younger son.
Had started up a band, and actually I was in that, and that sort of ties back in together, like how we met. Kim, David, and you were playing with Brian.
Right.
And it's a funny story. I told it last time, but when I started with Brian, actually I had just gotten out of audio engineering school, went over to Blackbird, and so I was with David one day, and he said, "Hey, I'm doing a recording session up at Brian Graves' place," and he told me who it was, and I said, "Well, I had just graduated, and I was looking for an intern job, and I said, well, maybe I could go up there and talk Brian into letting me work with him some, Well, as it happens, in this town, I've said it before, I got up there, and he had a song, Traveling Prayer, and he was trying to find all these banjo players to play this one certain lick on there. Nobody could do it.
Oh, yeah.
Then I said, man, have you got a banjo sitting there? Because I didn't have mine with me. He said, yeah, I got one. So I went over and picked it up and I tuned it up and I played it a little bit. Man, he said, well, here, let me record you. And then after I knew it, I was on the record, and then I was in the band, you know, and so that's sort of, you know, that's how, you know, we met, and you know, with Brian and
you know, the bloodline is a great idea, you know, and that was we did that to sort of fall back on Uncle Josh's time with the Earl Scruggs Review,
right?
You know, and Earl, we found out later that it was a tough struggle for Earl to get that rolling, and he was a big star. So that's the type of music is wonderful. It's great music. It's just unknown, right? Unless you're in that era, you know. So that was a hard part of trying to book that, you know.
Well, it was a great mix, you know. During that time, it was a great mix of, you know, the folk movement,
yes,
you know, and a little bit of rock,
and
bluegrass, and jazz, and all kind of different stuff. But the only thing that they had trouble with is they didn't have a record slot for that.
Right.
They didn't have a category.
There was no
for
genre
so
for it. Yeah.
At the time, you know, now they've got Americana.
Yeah.
You know, roots. Whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Back then they didn't know what to call it.
Yeah, they didn't know what to call it. I can see why Earl would have had a rough time.
Yeah,
there were a lot of bands that were trying to break out into a more progressive style. I know the Osmonds did.
Sure.
Even in the 60s and 70s, and you know, there were a lot of bands, you know, Bluegrass Revival.
Yeah.
All of them.
Bob and Sonny, they got crucified for putting their electric instruments. I can tell you some stories about that, man, that'll knock your hat off. I mean, it's great stuff. You know, it's really stuff. But
well, I heard a funny one just as a side note one time. Somebody told me about Sonny was at a festival, and he was trying to mess with some people, you know. So he went and got him a little bitty wire, you know, about so long, and he just sort of run it down inside his banjo and wired it up, you know. He didn't have any pickup or anything, and he run it out and just stuck it in his pocket.
Yeah.
You know, and people followed him around, these kids, you know, and said, when you got that hooked up to that banjo so loud, you know, he said, I'll never tell.
That's it, yeah. They did that stuff all the time, you know. They just do stuff like it. You know, I asked Sonny Oliver one time, I said, what was your most gratifying moment of music? And he said, I'll tell you what it was. They wanted to go to Bean Blossom. Bean Blossom is the grandfather of all festivals.
Well,
it's the best.
Bill Rose Festival, yeah.
Bill wouldn't let them come because they were electrified.
Oh.
And he would say, you can come, but you can't bring your electric instruments. And Sonny said, well, then we ain't coming. See, because he was the Osmond was open for Haggard at the time, and they had to compete with all of that electric stuff. So they had all their instruments electrified.
Well, you've got to. You just can't get up there with you play through a mic. It's just too much.
But he said that Bill, after Sonny and them was hot, man. They had Rocky Top out. And they had all these songs out, and they were hotter than a firecracker.
Yeah.
And Bill said, okay, you can come, bring all your stuff. I just need you at Bean Blossom. So Sonny and Bob, they go to Bean Blossom, electrified.
Wow.
And this is Bluegrass Festival. Yeah, exactly. And he said, Tim, when we hit the stage, he said, there wasn't a person in that park that wasn't standing at the stage, and that includes Bill Monroe.
Wow.
And he said, when we went into our first song, he said, it sounded like a train taking off with everybody screaming and hollering. And he said, here was Bill standing right over there on the side of the stage watching them. And he gave Sonny the thumbs up. And Sonny said that was his most gratifying moment of all time in music. You know.
Well, you know, that would really be something coming from Bill.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
Bill had his moments, but I think he
was versatile. Yeah,
he
appreciated good music. He was versatile.
At the end of the day, he appreciated.
That's right.
Music.
He did 100%.
Yeah.
You know, he would fight you a little bit, but deep down he loved good music. You know.
I think he just wanted to give you a little hard time.
That was Bill. I loved him to death. I worked with James for a long time. You know, traveled with Bill and Jim and Jesse. We toured all together. It was wonderful. Bill was a great guy.
Wow.
He was.
I never got to meet any of those guys. I was born in '98, and Bill he passed away in '96.
Yep.
A lot of the great ones went on before I was born.
I was so lucky to get into it because
you were right in that time period.
I never had to be at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Because I was with Uncle Josh.
Because
He would take me to a festival. I'd be sitting back there talking to Bob and Sonny and Mac Wiseman and everybody. I mean, all the big people was right there beside Josh. They want to talk to him. Here I am talking to him, you know.
Well,
and
can't beat that. I'll take it.
and then I got in with James Monroe, which was Bill's boy. I would turn with Jim and Jesse. They treated me good, you know. And then Bill Monroe, and it was just wonderful. So when I went to the Grand Ole Opry in '84, I knew everybody backstage. Mm-hmm. So it was just like I was one of them, you know. So I never had to really struggle at trying to get from the bottom up, you know. Right. So I just started in, and I was, luckily, I was a good enough picker to where I could do my job.
Yeah,
you know,
well, that's what it takes.
And so they didn't think bad of me because I was young. They just, you know, you're doing the job, so just do it.
If you can cut your gig, yeah, it don't matter.
It don't, and that's what I think. I don't care if you're 20 or if you're 60. If you cut your gig, cut your gig.
Do it.
You know, and
that's what it takes. It's about the music, you know.
Yeah, I worked with Wilma 12 years, and longer than any dobro player ever worked with. Yeah. But I cut my gig, you know. So that's what it was.
And that's what it takes, you know.
Yeah.
And but sort of going back to Graves' bloodline, you know, we can talk about how we got through that, and what Uncle was telling you about you and Brian should work together, but y'all are two totally different ends of the spectrum.
Man, I tell you, a month before Uncle Josh died, he called me over to the house. He called me up and he said, "Hey kid, how you doing?" Same phone call as I got the other night.
Yeah.
I said, "I'm just hanging out." He said, "Come over and let's talk."
You knew that voice?
Yes, 1,000 times. And so I get in my car. I always went over and see him. I drove over there and we sat and talked for all day. And he told me I need to sell my dobro that he'd give me, and I did. A year later, I shouldn't have, but I did. He told me that me and Brian need to work together. I said, "Uncle," I said, "I love Brian's pick and I love him. He's a great guy." I said, "But he plays rock and roll or rock. I play bluegrass." I said, "That won't connect." He said, "Believe me, kid, it'll work." And
he was very open-minded and innovative, and
he saw stuff. He saw things that I couldn't see.
Yeah.
He was just intuitive or just had a knack for seeing things.
Something that you would never think would work,
no.
You know.
So we got with the bloodline, and I knew that would work because of Earl Scruggs Review.
Right.
But now Brian is working with the Farmhands.
Yeah.
Doing a great job. I mean, he fits in like a glove.
Oh yeah, it's I'm having more fun playing in this band, and I think it was sort of it took all this time, you know, us meeting up and going through this, you know, going through the motions, but you know, we're finally here.
Yeah.
Working with the Farmhands, you know, it's a great job, and a lot of people. We're doing good work. You know, we're doing good work for the Lord too.
We are. We're doing good work for the Lord, but you know, and the amazing thing to me, Farmhands had a great following. They have a great following, but they were used to seeing me and Daryl and Don and Keith.
Right.
Okay, that was the core. That band went for 6 or 7 years without no changing. 6 years with no changing. Mm-hmm. So that was what they was normal to see. But now with this band, everybody that comes up to me says, "Man, you guys sound better than you used to." You know, and that's hard to soak in. Because the Farmhands, I mean, we had a good sound,
well, but it's a lot different.
It's different. We look different. We sound different. We're doing things different. But it's.
I know I look different.
Well, yeah, I do too. But I look older. But it amazes me that we just do things. It's just working. It just works. Is all I say.
You know, and
you have to worry about that when things change like they do.
You do, and I think that I don't think any of this was for nothing. I think it was all a part of a plan.
It's a plan that we don't know.
We can't understand it, but I know that I've been waiting for, you know, to work with some good people and you know, for good things like this for a long time, and I've stayed faithful, you know, with the Lord, and I want to give Him the credit right now and put it on notice. That
that's what I
He's
always
the one
do.
that I think He's got a plan. And we're out here doing good work, you know, and it just all seems to fit together. And before you know it, I mean, He knows it before you do. But when you start to see it open up, you're like, oh, okay.
It's like a
light bulb goes off.
Well, it's like you got a puzzle laid out here. He knows what the picture is. We got one piece.
That's right.
We can look at that piece all day long and not know what it means.
That's right.
You know, but He knows.
Yeah.
So we just have to go by our faith and follow, and just, you know. If we get out of His way, it'll work out. If we try to do it ourselves without His blessing,
that's right.
It falls.
Well, that's what you got to do. You just got to.
I mean, anybody else, Kelsey, I'm telling you, when COVID come around, well, starting in September when the band started changing, COVID come around in March. Benny had quit. Brian had worked only 9 shows with us. He didn't even know the material really yet. And then COVID come around, shut it down. The guitar player had to quit. Don had to quit. I had to jump around and reboot. Nobody
really
else
knocked the wind out.
Yeah. Nobody else could have done that. I mean, nobody else would have done that.
Well, it was.
It was just.
But we knew.
I knew that there's more.
You knew
to come.
that there was something that
needed to be
had to be done.
Yes. And so I wasn't going to stop, and so now I got a better group than I had.
Yeah.
And we got the same message that we was putting before, even better message. We got better music.
Yeah.
We have a better show, and everything is better than it used to be.
Right.
So that's your goal. That's what you have to do. You keep pushing. You don't back off, and you don't stop just because you get knocked down.
That's when you need to get up and go more.
You get back up and you go forward.
Twice as hard. Yeah.
That's it. And that's what I did. And then Kimberly said, Kimberly, she's me and her's been hanging out for 5 years now. Mm-hmm. She said, you know what? She said, I don't think a lot of people could have done this.
Well,
I said, well, no, a lot of them wouldn't have. They'd have stopped. So it was a monumental task, but thanks to you and David and Brian, and Kimberly, it all worked, and it works well.
And it is working well, and we're really having fun doing it. And I think it's all what we're supposed to be doing.
It is.
And it's just a great thing.
I just think when you do what you're supposed to be doing and follow the Lord's direction, you can't fail.
Well, and like I say, I think that's what we're doing now.
Yeah. It's amazing to me. I've seen things happen that shouldn't have, that worked out. So it's just there's no pickers available because everybody's working. But I've got some of the best in Nashville right now with me that I've ever had. Yeah. It's like wow, this is. David can play guitar. He can play twin fiddle with Kimberly. Yeah. He can play the piano. You can play guitar, banjo, whatever I need. If I need part swapping, you guys can do that. Kimberly can do it. So I'm the one that's got it easy. It's just.
Well, we got to help each other. It all works together.
It does. And so
everybody brings something to the table.
I think we're unlimited to what we can do now. We're unlimited. We can. If I say, okay, I need a mandolin on this song instead of a banjo, you can grab the mandolin and go for it.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
And it's only going to get better.
Yeah, it is. When we get back to work correctly, and it's coming real soon.
Well, it'll be here.
The dates aren't canceling like they were, so we're going to be fine. Everything is good. We're looking forward to getting back out there on the road.
Yeah, well, I sure am too. Yeah. Well, Tim, I've had a good time here with you today. And,
I have too, man. Yeah,
enjoyed having you here on the show, and we'll really put this out there for everybody to see, and y'all can check out the Farmhands. I'll put all everything in the description below.
Yeah.
And so, well, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure and honor, and just hope everybody enjoys it.
All right. Thank y'all.